Love the green, Emily.
Yes, I'm representing. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you. Thank you for joining. Sydney, how is it in southern Utah? Are you guys getting any snow there?
Yes, we did. I'm actually at the university down at a game I had to attend, but it was slippery right down.
Was
Mainly
it?
ice. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It is chilly in Salt Lake too. Today was like the first day that I feel like we actually got snow. It didn't stick, but it was a little snowy. Is anybody from Logan on here? Do we have any of our Logan
I'm
people?
on here, Emily. It's Janelyn. And yes, it is snowing and snowed all day. And I shed a little tear when I saw on the news that it's going to be 65 in St. George next week. So
If you guys, if you haven't met Janelyn before, she was our impact team lead in Southern Utah and lived in St. George and then moved to Logan. So yes, that is a big weather transition. That is for sure.
our sweet neighbors plowed our driveway. So honestly, that was huge.
That's so good. Yes, this is why we need community, because when you're not used to snow, we need people to fill in, right? Okay, well, we're so excited you guys are on tonight. Thank you for taking the time. It is always, it takes effort, and we recognize that, to set a reminder and to get out the computer, especially if you have kids home or homework to do or work to do or whatever else you have going on in your life. And we're just so very grateful. I am Emily Bell McCormick. I'm the president of the Policy Project. I know many of you, and it's so lovely to see your faces. I thought it would be fun really quick to go around and just introduce the core team that's here tonight. So if I'll just say your names if you guys want to introduce yourself and what you do. Kate Marin, I see you.
Hi, guys. I'm Marin. I'm the Policy Development Manager.
She's super cool. So she basically goes through all of the ideas, because as you guys have ideas, you can send them to Marin. Any ideas we see that we're like, whoa, dang, that's so cool that Texas did that or New York did that or whatever, we kind of keep a list, and Marin dives in and says, like, can we actually do this here? And is it, how do you make it happen? So she's got a cool job. Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm the development manager. So I'm in charge of all fundraising strategy and kind of relationship building, donor relationships with the policy project. So very exciting stuff.
Yes, we love Hannah. So she gets to make lots of phone calls and meet lots of people. Her job is just being out and about and making things happen. So we're so grateful for her. Okay, you guys know Jaden, but Jaden, do you want to intro?
Yes, I'm Jaden. I'm the community engagement manager here at the Policy Project.
And as I said, I'm pretty sure all of you know Jaden, because she is our queen of community, and her job is just to make sure that we are all in love with each other. And I think it's working pretty well. So good job, Jaden. Okay, is Brooke on?
Yes, hi, I'm Brooke. I'm Chief of Staff here at the Policy Project, which means mostly I just do whatever Emily tells me to do, but I do a lot of our operational back stuff and just make sure everyone on the team has what they need to do their jobs.
And that is exactly right. Brooke really does. She is has to be able to fill in any gap there is. So she's got these incredible abilities to kind of fill in for any person who's maybe missing that day or anything that needs to be done. So she is amazing. And is Grace on?
I am. Hi, everybody. My name is Grace. I am our team support specialist, and my job description is in the name. I just help the team.
And she does it with the best attitude, and is just a dream to work with. So she really gets all the kind of important things done in a day. And I see we have a lot of our impact team leads and impact team members and some volunteers. And so we're super excited to have you here tonight. We are going to jump in. Welcome to our 2026 policy preview. This felt forever away, December 1st, and then the holidays hit. We all go on break, and it's like, oh my gosh, just all of a sudden it's here. Tonight is a really cool night because it's a deep dive into each of the policies that we're championing in this legislative session. And many of you have been with us for more than one session. and you've seen kind of how we've grown. You've helped us grow and led us along to where we are now. You know, when we first started, it was with some policies around periods and getting period products into schools and those kinds of things. But we've gone from one policy to now this year, I believe we have 7 that we're working on, which is a lot. But what I can tell you is that this, you know, the legislative session is 45 days long. And it is 45 days that are a complete and utter blur. You know, they sometimes start at like Tuesday this week. I think my day started at, had to be somewhere at 7:15 a.m. and got home at 7:15 p.m. ironically. And they're long days, but these are the days that really change the state of Utah. We ask a lot of everybody all throughout the year, but everything we do is about the next 45 days, starting on January 20th is when it actually starts. This is when collectively we go to the legislature and we say, this is what Utahns want. This is what Utahns need. And we know that there is a certain amount of funding and a certain number of resources that we can use to better Utah. And this year, as we were diving into, you know, what is the most important pressing need? As many of you know, that's a big burden we carry every year, trying to figure out like, how do we best assess the needs of Utahns and how do we best make sure that the policies we pursue reflect the greatest need? And it became incredibly clear as we talked to families throughout the state last year when we visited everybody's cities and towns and counties that our families in the state of Utah need help. We need to be better at supporting us. We've done a really good job at investing in infrastructure. We're very good at investing in roads and buildings and things that are super important. But if our people are not supported, it doesn't make those roads and buildings as impactful as they could be, right? We need to support young families. We need to make sure that Utah is first taking care of its people and then taking care of its things, just like we do in our own personal families or our own relationships. And so that's what this year is all about. It's about getting the legislature, getting our community, getting the entire state of Utah, getting our donor base, getting everyone on board with like, let's start talking very, very seriously about what it looks like to support families in Utah. One little statistic I wanted to bring up is in the last 20 years, the birth rate in the state of Utah has dropped about 33%. It's dropped, like we're about a third fewer people than we were 20 years ago. And sometimes I think, well, is that actually a bad thing? But when you really look at what that means for the future of a place like Utah or any other state, when you think of all those roads we're building, all the buildings we're building, all these things, the infrastructure we're building, who maintains it if like a third of our population is no longer there? And then I would like to add on top of that, for any of you who have siblings or, you know, younger siblings or nieces and nephews or children of your own or grandchildren, when a parent doesn't feel supported, when someone's at their wit's end because they can't find childcare, but they need to work or they don't make enough money to provide for an apartment or a home, those things break our communities, right? When a parent feels desperate, when they feel like they don't have somewhere to turn, that can really, really damage our communities because obviously communities are built of individuals. So this year is all about looking at those kinds of things and making sure that we support individuals, that we support communities, and that our state is better for families. Marion is going to take it away, and after Marion chats, we're going to go into each of our individual policies, let you ask some questions. We'll have a couple minutes for questions after each policy. And then if they're deep questions, we're going to save those to the very end and we can deep dive into them for those that want to stay on the call. Okay, Marion.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to be laying out a few slides for you that help us understand with data, like what families are facing, and what's really happening in regards to being able to afford a family, just with some nice numbers and some nice graphs that are quite shocking, and it'll just like really level it out for us. Next. So when adjusted for inflation, quite basically, like our wages haven't kept up with the cost of necessities. So this is kind of showing like our consumer price index, which basically just measures like everything we pay for every day. And this is like housing and food, and it's our medical care, it's entertainment, it's transportation. And this is just pretty much showing like at the baseline, we're now spending a larger share of our incomes on these basics. So this leaves less money for savings. It leaves less money for everything. It just like leaves less stability for you, right? Like families aren't really able to thrive. So this is one of my favorite graphs. Like consider you are young, right? You're starting out in your career. You and your spouse want to start a family. But we all know like our wages haven't kept up with the cost of necessities, which is especially tight, right? Like when you are early in your career, you're not making as much money as you will 10, 20 years from now. So when you want to start a family, it's typically the case, especially for young people, right, that both parents need to work. Even if it's not your preference, cost of necessities these days typically necessitates that like both people are needing to work. So if you're one of the majority of Utahns that do work, you know, a lot of people, there's a lot of families where parents do work, and 74% of parents with kids under 6 say they do need 2 incomes to afford to start a family. Like then add in the cost of childcare, because like we all know housing's insane, but like unbelievably it's not the biggest expense for families with young children. So all of these costs are going up, and then we're adding on childcare, which is even more expensive. So childcare is like grown the fastest. The prices have grown the fastest out of all of these other essential costs. And everything's just continuing to grow, right? And this is Utah specific data. So Utah's no exception. This childcare cost is for a family with 2 kids. So this is childcare for a toddler and an infant. So when we're comparing household expenses, childcare for a growing family does cost the most. So for families that want to grow, right, we want more than 1 kid possibly, and for families that also want to thrive and not have to worry every day, it's really pushing that childcare cost into like a really unsustainable share of their income. And this graph is nice because we have a lot of policy supports to help people get into housing and to help people pay for college tuition. But we're like asking these young families to take on all of this plus childcare, and it's just becoming untenable, as we all know. I know, Brooke. This shows the share of one's income paying for childcare. So the Federal Department of Health and Human Services says that childcare is too expensive if it takes more than 7% of your income. And this is showing that in Utah, childcare is taking up 12% of the income for a married couple, and like an unbelievable 32% for a single parent. Like a single parent can't help but work to provide for their family, right? 32% of their income would be going to childcare. I think the average is like 17%. So we're ultimately comparing 7% that it should be, and for kind of all parents, 17. So that's a big chunk. So when a couple decides to have a family, right, like I said, for some, like both parents may want to work, like we both want careers, we both want to do that. But as we've kind of established more often, it's like necessary, we can't not. And this does mirror data. So Gardner Policy Institute did a survey of working parents with kids under 6. So that's who this represents. And 74% of them did say they need 2 incomes to cover their expenses. In the same survey, 43% of Utah working parents with kids under 6 would prefer a parent to stay home. Next. So Brooke will go over this, but like the policy package we've developed is to help both sets of parents. Those that might want a parent to stay home, those that need or want to both work. What we're kind of highlighting here is how things are now. There's just a lack of choice. So when we consider the cost of childcare can sometimes negate like the income of one parent, that becomes a hard choice. So we like to kind of look at these two different scenarios. So both parents need to stay in the labor force to afford childcare, right? Though they might prefer one of them to stay home. So those parents like are still facing reduced economic viability because they have to pay for the cost of childcare, but they would prefer not to, right? Or both parents would prefer to stay in the labor force, but the cost of childcare is like negating almost one of their incomes. So one of them decides to work less. And this option also leads to families having reduced economic viability because they would both prefer to work. So in both cases, we're just trying to show that like parents don't have a choice and we need policy solutions for both. And this plays out in data. So younger adults are increasingly planning fewer children or not having children than prior generations. So, you know, some of these surveys are asking them why. And of course, there's plenty of other reasons like, I just don't want them or the state of the world or whatever. But this is like these two different surveys, substantial chunks are attributing their decision not to have children on affordability and economic insecurity. So this is playing out in data. And here's just another point. It's like investing in kids 0 to 4 has more compounded effects as they age than what we are investing in when they're in the ages of K through 12. The return on investment for investing in kids 0 to 4 is an average of $1. You invest $1, you get $7.50 back, and up to $13 for disadvantaged children. And these are gains like increased college attendance and higher lifetime earnings, better health outcomes, reduced crime, reduced dependence on public assistance. So that's kind of how they're measuring that. Oh, that's just what I just said. It's very important. So compelling, right? Like the data really plays out and makes the case for the fact that we really need to do something to help Utah families.
Okay, yay. Thank you, Marin, for sharing all of that data out of your smart brain. Love to have Marin to wrangle through a lot of research and papers for us and kind of show the data that backs up all of the stories and people that we meet and all of the pressures that we're feeling ourselves and with our families in today. So I just want to start by saying, so there's a lot of different factors that are putting pressure on Utah families. And, you know, we really wanted to narrow in specifically this session on young families and on families who have young children or who are deciding or trying to have young children, because it feels like a really big barrier right now to kind of make that leap from, you know, not having kids to having kids just because of the costs that come with it. That being said, there's all kinds of different factors that play into that, right? There's, of course, there's housing and the cost of food and gas and all kinds of necessities, but we wanted to zoom in on what supports are we offering for these young families. And there were, you know, about a million different angles we could take, but kind of the job of us at the Policy Project is to look at there's a lot of options on the table, and there's a lot of things that other states have tried, and there's a lot of things that researchers suggest to do. And our job is to look at all of those, weigh the pros and cons, and especially to think about, you know, what makes sense here in Utah with our culture and our community, and what ideas are people going to be interested in supporting, and especially what ideas will the people that we have elected to positions of power, what ideas will they support, and kind of what has that political viability, and what do we feel like is the right step that community and elected leaders and the private sector can all take a step forward together this year. And so after weighing all of those things, we're like, okay, there's kind of three prongs that we want to push for during this session when it comes to helping Utah families and helping these young families. The first is promoting financial flexibility for parents. Obviously, the best way to solve this is just to help parents be able to make the best decisions for their family. And ultimately that comes down to having the financial flexibility to be able to choose, you know, it's best for our family if we're a two-parent household and both of us stay in the workforce, or, you know, I'm a single mom and, you know, I need to have childcare for my kids, or, you know, we have two parents, but it's best if one of us stays home. All of that really comes down to, you have to have the financial flexibility to have those options. The second thing is increasing access to high quality childcare. We know that we have a few problems with childcare. It's not unique to Utah, it's really across the country, but especially in Utah, we have problems with affordability of childcare, and we also have problems with access, having enough childcare and having enough quality childcare close to your home. And then the third prong that we wanted to look at is supporting new moms. And infant care is the most expensive time to get childcare, so there's kind of that affordability problem. But then there's also just like the health benefits and the societal benefits of being able to have moms have that time with newborns and with infants. And so we wanted to see, you know, what can we do there to support our new moms. So at this point, we have developed out 7 different, is this right? 7? Did I just say that? Yes. 7 different policy solutions in a few different bills that we're going to run through tonight. We're just going to do a couple minutes on each, open it up for questions, like Emily said. And we're going to walk through each bill that we're working on. And even though we were like, family affordability, we thought at the beginning, we were like, maybe we can just do one bill that has all of these ideas. And it turns out we cannot. They have to be separated because it has to be very specific to the different topics and the different tactics. And so that's why we have so many bills, even though we're trying to address one problem, because we're taking this kind of multi-pronged approach, we had to split it up across a bunch of different ones. So I'm going to start by talking about the 2 tactics that we're using to promote financial flexibility for parents. So this is kind of our first group of bills that we're going to talk about tonight. So the first thing is expanding the state child tax credit. So I'm a new mom. I actually was on maternity leave during most of last session, but last year was the first year that I filed my taxes and I got a child tax credit from the federal government. And with that child tax credit, we helped pay for diapers. We helped buy, I didn't know that having a baby meant you need so many tiny things. And so that was a huge help for me and for my husband, and really helped kind of lighten the load of like having a kid. Recently across the country, states have been starting a state level child tax credit. And Utah a couple of years ago passed a law that created a state level child tax credit, which is great because this is, you know, one of those tactics that can get funding into the pockets of parents. However, the tax credit at the state level is kind of limited. It's only for if you're making a very specific amount of money. I think it's up to $54,000 for married filing jointly right now. And it's also only for ages, I think 0 to 5 is where it's at now. And so this is something that our elected leaders have shown that they're interested in investing in this solution. We feel like there's a lot of political viability here. The path has kind of already been paved, but however, it's just not reaching enough families to make a big difference, because we know that people making more than $54,000 a year are still really struggling to meet all these needs. And so this bill is about expanding the income eligibility for Utah's child tax credit. We're working with Representative Tracy Miller and Senator Lincoln Fillmore on this. And the ask is basically to increase that income eligibility. So we're still kind of waiting on final numbers back from the fiscal analysts, but to around, I think around $60,000 a year. So just to increase that number, and that would make it so that around 10,000 to 14,000 families would now be eligible in addition to apply for this tax credit, and helping around 20,000 more children in the state of Utah. So we're really excited about that one. That's one that helps just get money back into the pockets of families. So that is the first bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions about tax credits. Please lay it on me, and also go easy. You can unmute or raise your hand or drop it in the chat if you have any questions about this. Okay. If you have any questions, if you think of anything, pop it in the chat or save it till the end. So then this one kind of goes hand in hand, but the second tactic we have is boosting participation in family-friendly tax credits. So tax credits are great, but taxes are also confusing and kind of scary. And so especially those federal tax credits that are very generous and they're refundable. So even if you aren't making that much money as a family, but you file your taxes, you still get money, you get money back, right? You get money, you get a check from the government. And so this is great at meeting that goal of getting funding into families' pockets. But in Utah, there's about 54,000 eligible working Utahns who could be filing for some of these federal tax credits who don't know about them and aren't, they're not applying for the tax credits. And so we're leaving a lot of money on the table as a state for Utah families, that if we could just get some more awareness and some more assistance for some of these families who need help knowing about these and filing their taxes, we could be bringing in a lot of money to the state. And so once again, we're going to be working with Representative Tracy Miller on this. And this is actually not a bill, it's just a request for appropriation. It's called an RFA. So it goes through a little bit process, but still happens during the session. And we're asking for $200,000 to help support some organizations that are already working on tax credit awareness and filing assistance. They're called VITA sites. There's 8 organizations in Utah throughout the state who have already been kind of contracted to do this work, but they're working with extremely limited budgets. And so this year, we'd love to give them a boost to help kind of increase the awareness and that filing assistance, and also spread the word about the new child tax credit. Melanie, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, well, I had a question about this one specifically, just because I've seen the application process and I just filed it just to see how difficult it was. It's not easy. And so I wonder if there's going to be a project around revamping the application process.
No, but I want to tell you, sorry, Brooke, to take over.
Yes, go there.
These VITA sites are specifically to give you free tax filing assistance. So the awareness isn't even oh, this tax credit exists. The awareness is also go to this place. They'll help you file your taxes for free, because and these are federal. We can't change the federal. it's both tax credits, but like we're the federal tax credits, we don't have any control over that application, you know what I mean? But does that help? It's like,
Yeah, it's a project in itself. Like I already see it. I'm like,
yeah.
I
So
can't
that's
let every
a big
AI
deal,
here.
right? Like if you knew that you could schedule time with someone and it was free, like that's amazing. And depending on how many kids you have and what you make, it's thousands of dollars in your pocket. It's like, we just need to make sure that this program is better funded. And it's like one of those low hanging fruit policies, like, duh, like it doesn't cost that much. And look at the impact it can have.
I agree. Thanks, Marianne.
Melanie, I love the idea though of, and it sounds nerdy, but yes, of what tax filing reform. It sounds great. I can be a huge fan. Okay, so thank you, Melanie. And any other questions before we move on from these two thrilling tax credit oriented policies that we will be working on? Okay, I think I'm going to pass the baton back to Marin now to talk about the next category.
Okay, and I don't know if you said this, Brooke, but I think it's helpful to kind of think of all of these too in this type of frame. Like we chose policies that will enhance what already exists. Like we're not doing systems change here. We're doing systems change in a way by doing the type of package and like attacking this from different angles. But we were like, okay, we hear it's going to be a really tough session this year. Like we know our asks are going to be limited. Let's enhance what already exists. So that might also help. Let's talk childcare. So we chose a couple of policies that will address both access and affordability. So next, startup grants for home-based childcare providers. This one's pretty cool. Like there is one that exists. It's $400. All it literally does is like cover your costs to become like for licensing. We want these to incentivize home-based childcare in different ways. The amount of money you'll get from these is dependent on how many slots you create. It's dependent on if you are going to be providing care in a childcare desert. There are counties that have zero childcare. You'll get more money if you are providing care nights and weekends for our shift workers who really can't find childcare. And you'll get even more money if you enter the quality rating system, which is amazing. I think some people might be scared to enter the quality rating system because there are ratings. You might be on the lowest rung or whatever, but what that's really signaling is all of the resources you have available to you and coaching and training and possible grants and funding and stuff to help you be like as quality as possible. So this one is pretty cool. And we're hoping, that's not all the money will go to. Like there's a base amount. We're hoping will help people feel like it's enough to get over the hurdle of starting a home-based childcare business. You may have some minor, I want to say renovations, but you know what I mean? Like little changes to your house you might need to do, equipment, supplies, all of that stuff. The cost of licensing, just the cost of doing business. Like we're hoping just that baseline helps, and then we'll really incentivize really like tackling the holes that are the most needed. So that's why it's like up to 5,000. Are there any questions on that one? We're obsessed. Okay. Oh, sorry. I didn't. Representative Escamilla is going to be our sponsor. Emily, did you have something to say? I can't tell. Okay. And we're asking for 2.3, just one time. So this will be like a one-time ask, a one-time grant program. Oh, next.
And Marion, really quick, do you want to just talk about like how this will increase supply? Like maybe other than some other tactics that people have in mind to increase supply, why this is like a really effective way of increasing the supply of childcare in the state of Utah?
I think just I don't know what other tactics you're talking about. You might want to remind me.
I'm just saying, like, some people in the legislature think it'd be really great to increase the number of children that child providers can take. But we're saying, like, increasing the number of providers, and each provider can take, 8 or more children will increase the supply of childcare slots so much more than increasing the number of children that one provider can take on. But yeah, just this one grant, which is like a really conservative fiscal ask, can create up to 8,000 new home-based childcare slots in the state of Utah, which is so cool. I just think this is so cool, especially because it prioritizes, those like rural areas and childcare deserts. Just very cool policy. And thanks for Marin's big brain for dreaming this up.
Oh, you betcha. Okay. So that's kind of supply, that's access. This one is so cool. And this is kind of our answer to affordability. So a little bit of context. HR1, which people kind of know as the big, beautiful bill, enhanced employer tax credits this last year. So it used to just be like, we will give you a tax credit if you build on-site childcare, which like is just a big ask of employers to do, is to build childcare. And that's a big liability to put on it. It's just not very attractive. Like no one's really taking advantage of it. Okay. So what the HR1 legislation did is it added that the tax credits can be applied to helping employers, helping their employees pay for the childcare of their choice. Like there's qualified childcare, likely licensed and everything, right? Like you can't just like pay your mom or whatever to take care of your kids. But anyway, they're pretty generous. So if you are a small business, you get 50% back. So your employer could pay $1,000 a month helping you pay for childcare, and they're going to get $500 back. If you are a small business, which is even cooler, it's 50. So 40% for big businesses, 50 for small businesses. What this does, and this is Representative Jason Thompson, he wants to sweeten that deal, even especially for small businesses. And can you imagine if we're not sure exactly what the numbers are, right? If you guys, Brooke or Emily, like remember from what we saw today, I don't remember if it was like 20%.
It was 30 for small businesses and 10 for large.
Okay, so he wants to add 30% to the federal 50% for small businesses. That is an 80% tax credit, which just incentivizes employers to help you even more. Like, can you imagine how attractive that might be and like how much they could actually be paying because they're going to get most of it back. So this is pretty incredible. And the absolute specifics are coming. Like it came today, there was an issue. We're going to be switching it up a little bit, and then we'll get like these specific numbers to you guys if you need it. So this is what we really want to do too, is make sure that get employers involved and make sure employers know that this exists, and just like kind of probably how easy it is. And I did like very, what did I do? What's the word I want to say? I was just very, I did this math as far as coming up with like the impacts it will have. What's the word I'm thinking of, you guys? Like I wasn't the opposite of judicious.
Rudimentary?
No, like I did like, oh, out of all the small businesses, 10% take advantage of this. You know what I mean? Like I was trying to be pretty realistic about it, and the impact just that would have could be so cool if they took advantage of this. So we're really excited about this. And then imagine like, imagine you're an employee and you're in rural Utah. So like small businesses being able to take advantage of this, of which our rural communities are small, mid-sized businesses. You know what I mean? Like imagine the impact this could have all over the state for employees, their shift workers, right? Like it just really, I don't even know if we've even like imagined all of the possibilities here, but you're in rural Utah and you're like, there is no care. Like, I would love to take advantage of this. We're hoping maybe those grants, our grant policy could be the antidote to that, right? Like, we'll take this money, like someone down the street could possibly start up their own home care business. Melanie.
Yeah, this reminds me of the story during COVID of ARPA funds. And there was actually 3 million out there, and only 2 people got it.
Yeah.
So that's a good statistic to use, like less than 1%.
Yeah, I think like for sure part of this, and this is why Lindsay Buttram, our implementation manager, and why Policy Project is so cool, because like we're not gonna let this not be successful. You know what I'm saying? Right, Linz?
Yes. Hi, everyone. And I'm so sorry I missed the beginning introductions. I am Lindsay, for those who don't know me.
Lindsay, if you were on, I am so sorry. I totally missed you. Lindsay is amazing, you guys. Lindsay is the woman who, after we get these policies passed, has to deal with the absolute massive mess we've just made of the state of Utah. Like, hey, everybody, isn't this exciting change? You know, and then it's like, oh crap, now we actually have to do something and make sure it works. That is, she is an incredible brain. So yay, Lindsay. All right.
That's all I had, unless there was more detail. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Marin. And how is everybody hanging in there? Let's just do some emojis. If you can give me like some lots of love right now, let's do some claps, some hearts, some love. We're gonna just, have a moment. I love the party. It's a party. We're talking about all kinds of statistics and really kind of difficult things. If it makes you feel any better, if you've gotten lost at all during this discussion, I literally made Brooke and Marin whiteboard the last bill that she was talking about today. They had to whiteboard it for me for like 30 minutes, and I've been working on this for the last 6 months. I was like, wait, so where does the money flow and where is the money coming from? So if you're a little lost, just know you're in incredibly good company. It's a lot, but I just want to say this is a ton. There's no expectation to understand every detail of it. But I will say what's so cool about this year is, just like I said in the beginning, the work that we're doing is becoming more sophisticated, and we're able to really, really look at deep and wide systems change. And so I think that's one cool thing about this year, is just taking a little bit of like, businesses are going to get involved. We're going to get stay-at-home moms involved. We're going to get moms who work involved. We're going to, hit a lot of different pieces of this. So we're taking a really holistic approach to it. So super excited about it. And yes, always here to answer questions, but no worries if there's been any loss. They gave me the easy bills to cover, so prepare yourself for something that is going to be very understandable. I am talking about supporting new moms. We love this topic. A lot of people on here are mothers or aunts or, grandmothers. And so we know how important it is for a mom to have that time with a newborn. And we also know that there are many different states, different countries, different societies, different businesses that are already honoring this time with moms. And so we think the state should do the same. Jaden, you want to pop on the next slide? Okay, so what we're looking at is really cool, really incredibly pro mom and pro baby, which we're so excited about because we love the ladies. And right now in the state of Utah, maternity leave for state employees is 6 weeks. Paternity leave, which is a father's leave, is 3 weeks. But we would like to take the 6 weeks that moms are getting right now and expand that to 12 weeks. So doubling it. That seems great to many people, everyone on our team really, but it's a big ask. Oh, you know, that it's definitely something, as we've been talking around with legislators, that they're a little bit like, whoa, you want to double that? That's big. One of the things that we love so much about this is that if you increase that maternity leave to 12 weeks, it increases the retention of employees up to 70%. So you're retaining so many of your employees. If you've ever had a job and had to leave, or if you've ever managed somebody that has left, it is extremely difficult to find good people. And so that's a big win for our state, giving those moms and babies that time together. Also, just the bonding that happens. The other thing that is really cool about this is right now, breastfeeding in public is actually protected in statute. So there are laws that are saying like, hey, you know what? If Melanie Call is breastfeeding in public, it is totally fine. As it turns out, that is what breasts are intended for. And so that's okay. That said, we also know that when we're looking at the code, just to make sure things were pretty clean for new moms, there's nothing about pumping. And although most of us may opt out of pumping in public, honestly, that doesn't seem overly appealing to me. We recognize that women should have the ability to do that, as so many women now have to work. We want to make sure that pumping in public is protected so that nothing happens there, that the ladies are protected. So the other kind of cool thing, well, that is pretty much that with us. Any questions on this? That's right, Brooke.
That was for Melanie, but
Thanks,
you are also
Melanie. I thought it was for me. That's really very cool.
Incredible
I want to
job.
be a queen, but Melanie, you are a queen. Okay, let's see. What is my next one? Oh, this is Jaden. Oh, let's see, Heidi. Heidi, did you have a question? Or maybe you were giving an emoji. Sometimes I do that too. Okay, so we're super excited about maternity leave. This is going to be really, really cool. And I am going to pass the baton to Jaden.
Emily, I think you're going to cover these next slides, but I'm also happy to if you'd like me to.
Never mind. I'm going to cover these next slides. I forget. Okay, so this part, because we don't have enough to do, because we're bored and have nothing to do in the next, 2 months, we also are looking at ensuring that the policy that we've actually passed previously is implemented very effectively. So as I mentioned, we've got Lindsay Buttram, our queen of implementation, on the call. And the other part of that is making sure that government affairs and policy-wise, sometimes we'll pass a bill and then realize that there is something more that needs to be done, or something that should be shifted a little bit to make it more functional. Often there are these like nuances when you pass legislation that are important to cover. And so we have a couple bills that we'll be revisiting this year, and a couple in the future that we'd love to revisit. Last year we worked on a bill, as many of you will remember, that was about combating student hunger. It was really providing a no-cost school lunch to kids who were in a low income category, but that had parents that worked, but were still paying for school lunch. And in many cases, they were not high enough income. So they were going into debt for school lunch. And this created a lot of problems. As you can imagine, we had families that were going to collections over school lunch debt, and that creates a lot of other problems and can be very troublesome for low income families. So last year we were able to get funding for 40,000 kids this school year, 25-26, to have a free school lunch. And what we'd like to do is extend that in perpetuity. But because of the way the budget is this year, we're looking at extending it for 3 additional years, and then we'll revisit it again. That is exclusively just because the funding is so limited this year. We had some changes at the federal level that made it so that Utah actually we're responsible for a lot more things now. And so we have a lot more expenses. And so this will cost $7.5 million. This is an RFA. If you remember, that's not the same as a bill, but it's just an appropriation. So just an ask for money. And this would continue free school meals for those 40,000 kids. Any questions on this one? Okay, amazing, Jaden. The next one is phones in schools is how everybody knows these. This one. Last year, we were able to pass the bill that said, hey, phones are not appropriate for classroom use, right? This is not something that we should be doing. This year, it was an interesting year last year because we actually started with a first bell in the morning to last bell in the afternoon ban, just saying like phones don't belong at schools. They absolutely do in case of emergency, if you have an IEP, if you have these other exceptions, for sure you might need a phone. But outside of that, school is for learning, it's for socializing, it's for kind of just being very present and participating. And we started with this bell to bell idea. There was a lot of hesitation. The governor is very into the bell to bell idea. He's very good at kind of social media and thinking about that. But we hit a couple of roadblocks where people felt like this is what we mostly heard was like, this is an individual liberty problem. And as much as we kind of talked about, well, any of us as a parent could also give our kids an explicit magazine and let them take it to school. We all know that like, that's not actually appropriate for school though. So the school is going to be like, you can't have that here, or some of these things. And so this year, the world has shifted a little bit. We have 22 states in the United States that have passed bell to bell bans for schools. So the majority, and then an additional, I think it's 9, is that right, guys? An additional 9 that have classroom bans. And so we're just going to shift from the classroom ban into the bell to bell ban. That is the intent with this. The governor is very, very excited about this. The Senate is excited about it, and the House is pretty excited about it as well. I think the data is becoming irrefutable that this is the right way, the right direction. I will say this one is still, we're getting some of the same questions we got last year. Like, what does that mean for us as parents? There's a lot, there is a lot of concern, but the data and then the individual kind of experiences that people are having is really showing that this works well. One thing that I loved, we had a press conference yesterday and the governor was speaking, and one thing that I loved that he said that I am now stealing for my own is that last year we had a ton of people come and be like, what does this mean? I'm not sure about this. This is a big change. How am I going to get a hold of my kid when they have a dentist appointment or when they need to babysit their little brother after school? These are real things and they're real concerns. Teachers were like, well, what if I want them to get out their phones to use maps for geography or, a lot of concern. And I can tell you, we had a lot of concerns last year. And since it passed last year, we have not had one single human, no teacher, no administrator, no student and no parent come to us and say, we are so upset. We want our kids to have their phones in math again. We want our kids to go to biology with their phone in hand. They are really missing out by not having their phone. We haven't had a teacher say like, it was so nice when my kids had their phones in my art class. Not one of those. So I think that's a good thing to kind of hold on to. And as you talk with neighbors and stuff, there will be hesitation on this. There still is. But I think that's one of the most important things you can share is that there's no one. And when you frame it that way, it really does kind of wake up your brain to think like, yeah, that seems so silly for like a biology teacher to be like, it was super awesome when my kids had phones during my class, So just kind of a nice framing for this. Again, I know that there are questions about this. What questions do you guys have, or kind of what pushback would you have on that? Because it's always good to discuss these things. Melanie?
I mean, I guess like for any parent out there, their question would be like, well, what if they're caught with a phone? They're not going to go to jail, are they?
Yeah, that's a really good question and a really fair question. Yeah, no, absolutely not. The interesting thing about how phones will be managed is in Utah, we love local control. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Actually, you've got Salt Lake and Ogden and Provo that are pretty urban. And then you have places, like Panguitch, or is that the one you guys always tell me is actually so big? Panguitch, Manaway, you have like these smaller towns and your kids might have different needs. We learned that with teen centers. Like you've got some kids who are farming at 4 a.m. and then you have some kids who are going home early to babysit, you know? So you've got a lot of different needs. So what will happen is the schools, the LEAs, the local education agencies, will control like how this happens. So most likely what we've heard typically happens, Lindsay, do you want to give them a quick overview? She is the queen of this, of like what they typically do when they've got a bell-to-bell policy and how they would handle that with kids.
Yeah, I put in the chat that it really is up to the school's disciplinary policy. It's just like violating any other school policy, right? Like the school is going to have a system in place for it. What I've seen most common is like a kind of a 3-strike system. Usually there's like, you know, the first time it happens, there's like a warning, and they like work to correct the behavior. If it's a repeat problem, the consequences get a little bit more serious. But often once it takes, there is usually a system where the parent has to come to the school and pick up the phone. And what we hear is when you get to that point, it is enough inconvenience that the parent is upset and annoyed, and the kid realizes this is not okay. The behavior changes, or the parent says, you're not taking the phone to school anymore, right? Like, I'm not coming to pick up your phone again from phone jail. Like, we're just stop doing it. And so there often is a little bit of like corrective action and just adjustments needed as the culture change is happening in a school. But this is just handled like any other disciplinary issue, you know, like it's not so much of like a student brought like a firearm to school, right? Like it's a different level of severity, but there is usually, and what we recommend, we have a sample, we have a toolkit with sample policies and with the disciplinary like example in there. And I think what we recommend is, you know, having kind of a step, but also understanding that there is a little bit of an adoption phase, and that there might be a little bit more challenge going on. But what we hear is that once there is a transition within the school and most people are on board, it becomes where, you know, students are like, policing it. Like no one wants to do it because they don't want to be the one that's got their phone out and they know it's going to be noticed. And so like that behavior tapers off pretty quickly. Jenna, did you have something to add? Jenna has done a lot in this area and thought about this and helped a lot. So she might have something.
I was just thinking, I'm not sure how many people will experience this, but I know in my district, I was so excited when the legislation passed last year, but it is a little disheartening at times when your local LEAs don't align. And like in mine, they report to USBE that they are doing it, but they actually are not doing it because my students are at the school. So I am really excited about this legislation, hoping it goes through so that culture eventually will shift down. But that's something that I didn't anticipate. I thought once it passed, I would see the change in my own local district, and that just unfortunately wasn't the case.
Yeah, I'm happy to follow up with that, Jenna. And Jenna and I have chatted a lot about this particular district in school. And that's part of my role too, is like finding out those issues and then doing some outreach. And that'll be a piece of this as well as we move forward with this new policy. We've already looked at, are the policies that are in existence, are they in alignment with this? If they're not, like making sure we're doing outreach to help support schools to get that in alignment with the state policy. So there is a process, and it does take a little bit of time to get everybody technically up to speed. But even if you have something in place, it's a matter of how's that enforced locally. And that's where we can, again, step in and support and say, these are some best practices. These are examples of schools who've done it. These are their pain points. This is what they learned. This is how to make this more successful. We are going to have a webinar to share those very things. You know, like this is where our work can really help to support it. But the law is like the first step, right? And then, as Emily said, there's a lot of work to be done afterwards.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay and Jenna. I think those are good examples of, you know, kind of what hopefully will happen, especially as these things become more consistent. It allows for this to be a little bit more clear cut for different schools, and definitely for parents who want to make sure that it's happening. You know, it will be a clearer path to kind of make a demand. So I think we're excited about that. Any questions? Any other questions on that? I know we're at time. Jaden is going to inspire us and give us a beautiful what's next and farewell. Jaden?
Yes, it will be my honor. And if you guys have any questions about any of these 7 pieces of legislation that we talked about tonight, please do let us know. Email me, email any one of us, and we'll try to field those questions for you. I know that was a lot, and I think all of us are still trying to wrap our heads around it ourselves. So just know all questions are welcome, and please reach out if you have any. And we'll share this recording with you if you want to go back and watch it, which I'm sure you will love to do that in your free time. Okay, so what is next? How would we like you guys to engage? Number 1, you can follow along on social media. Our handle across Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram is just at the Policy Project. So we'll be posting a lot of bill updates as the legislative session starts on January 20th. So anytime any one of these pieces of legislation has any movement, we'll make sure to post it on social media. And also anytime there's like a public committee hearing, we'd love for you guys to come. It's really so cool. I think it's one of the coolest parts of working at the Policy Project is getting to see like the democratic process in real time. So we'll always be sure to inform you guys about any committee hearings or any opportunities to lean in through social media and through email. But be sure to follow along on our Instagram especially. Number 2, and I can get into more specifics maybe when we have more time, but if you go on to the Utah State Legislature website, you can find who your legislators are, your state representative and your state senator. And if you feel so inspired, we'd love for you to send them an email or send them a text and just tell them how much you value family affordability and how much you value family-friendly policy in the state of Utah. You can keep it really high level. You can share your own experience. I think that often goes further than just about anything, is saying like, I'm a mom to 3 young kids and it's really tricky to afford a family here in the state of Utah. We'd really value any support you can do for us in this circumstance. And we're so grateful for what you do for the state of Utah. Like a message as simple as that will go really, really far. So if you feel inspired, we'd love for you to contact your legislators. And then the last ask that I am really going to emphasize is our statewide tour. So we are going across the state of Utah starting next Wednesday, January 14th. And every week after that, we are traveling across the state of Utah to host events. Was there a question? Oh, I just heard a little ding.
It's me, but when you're done, go to me, Kay.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, Erin. But we'll be traveling across the state of Utah and we'll be hosting stakeholder meetings to gather local insights and make sure that our policies are reflective of the needs of the community. We'll be holding focus groups, and then we'll also be holding these service and advocacy nights. And these are open to the entire community. They're really fun. We're going to be doing like a fun discussion that's good for both kids and adults. We'll be doing postcard writing sessions. We'll be doing a big service project, a hands-on service project to support families and children in whatever community we're in. So if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to the Policy Project website, and all of these events are listed. And we would just love for you to come. We'd love for you to invite your friends, neighbors, book clubs, churches, literally anyone is welcome. They're really fun, really approachable events, and we'd love to have you there. And I think just showing up, there's something so powerful about like showing up to an event. And that is such a strong signal to our legislators when they see 200 people show up in St. George in support of these policies. It's something that they can get behind, and it tells them that their constituents want this and they value family-friendly policy. So please scan this QR code and register for free for one or many of these events, and please share on social media and share with your communities and your networks. We just would love to have you there. And this is really the magic of the Policy Project, is getting the community behind all that we do and making sure everything is informed by you and every corner of the state. So just thank you. And Maren, did you have something to add, my friend?
Sorry, this is really dumb. Now you have to go back into policy brain again.
No.
Childcare grants, it's pretty important that you know. It's not just for new childcare, it's also for existing providers that maybe want to like expand and enhance their care. Okay, that's important. Thanks.
That is important. Thank you, Maren. Okay, I think that's all we have. If anyone has any like pressing questions, you can stick around, and maybe like Maren, Brooke, and I can hang around for 5 more minutes to just see if anyone has any questions. But if not, you can log off, and we're just so grateful to have a community behind us. I am seriously such a softie because I'm getting emotional, but just really love each and every one of you, and we couldn't do this work without you. So thank you for joining, and here's to the 2026 legislative session. Thanks, guys. Okay. Anyone left that wants to ask any questions?
Melanie's like, of course, duh.
Melanie, our experts.
Well, I have a fun one. Like, I love these photos.
I know. We should share them with you, Melanie, because there are so many cute ones of you and your family. I will do that after this call.
Thanks.
Melanie, I'm excited to see you on here. At first, I was like, wait, I know that face. And then I was like, oh, I know who she is. It's good. I don't know if you remember me. I think I might have been one of the first folks to harass you at the rally. It's good to see you again.
No, it's all, I love it. I feel the love here. So you guys don't harass me at all.
Okay.
I just remember seeing your sign, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to understand who this woman is and what."
What did it say? I don't remember.
It's the one in the back where it says parents are leaving careers, and I put the ROI about like for 1 million you get 4 to 9 million back.
Yeah.
And so I actually used that at the city council meeting. So like I know how to talk numbers with these gentlemen.
That's a great skill. That's awesome. Well, excited to see you, Melanie.
Okay. Well, if you guys, I'm so happy. Like I'm here, I'm around. So if you guys need help, I've actually spoken a lot. So I've done a lot of storytelling projects and speeches. So
Ooh.
I like to write real from lived experiences, and it's not just me.